Hello, guys, and welcome to the Limitless Landscapers podcast. I'm Paula, your host, and today I'm talking about pricing. Are we pricing correctly? Is your price right? And everything in between. It's a very apt podcast today, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts in this episode. So let's go to the show. As the co-founders of the Landscaper Circle, we help you get more money, time, and freedom to become limitless through our experiences as fellow landscapers and our tried and tested methods. If you want help with your marketing, managing, or growing your business, you've definitely come to the right place. If you're a landscaper, garden designer, or supplier to the industry, then hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get back to the show. Hello guys, how are you? It's another sunny day in paradise. I hope you are all doing well in your businesses. Obviously, with the weather this way, landscaping is great. Inquiries are coming in. So we are all super thankful for this. I wanted to come on the show today and talk about pricing. Now, mainly because I did a very quick Friday thoughts last week, and it was kind of triggered by a situation I have in my father's business. Now, my dad runs a removals and storage company. You may or may not know this. If you listened to the Friday Thoughts last week, you'll know a bit more. If you want to listen, it's over on Instagram at The Landscapers Coach. It was triggered because his business is going to be going up for sale. And mainly because, unfortunately, my dad's health is on the decline. So myself and my two siblings are now in charge of obviously making sure that he is comfortable and has, sufficient care in place. But also on the other side is either running the business, selling the business, or managing his business for him. Unfortunately, we haven't got the time to do that, so we're looking to sell it. However, there's like an interim period because many of you will know that a sale isn't just done and dusted. There's lots to do. There's lots of contractual stuff to work through, figures, buyers, all of that jazz. So in the meantime, I am sort of looking at running it myself with my brother just as an interim until we can get it sold and then hopefully set that up for the rest of what will be his life. And essentially it threw up quite a few questions, and it started reflecting back to me questions in my own business and businesses, and I thought it would be good to share with you guys. Now, the main thing that I went through is no one has ever, and I mean ever, run a cash flow forecast in that business, which means making decisions is really, really hard to do, particularly from a financial perspective. Now, to put you in the picture, my dad has been running this business 15 odd years. He had a decline due to his alcoholism, which has affected his health majorly. And then two of my family members stepped in. And unfortunately, they had no idea what they were going into and what they were doing. So essentially, it's now been handed back for us to deal with, and it's in a pretty poor state. And so the first thing I did, other than contact the accountant and get all the figures together, was I ran a quick cash flow based on what's going in and out of his bank. And the result is ridiculously scary in one way because it's not a huge business and his overheads are very, very high in comparison to what the business is bringing in at this particular time. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up with you guys is many of you will be running a cash flow. Many of you will know your figures and know your numbers inside out, but this is kind of just to serve you as a reminder that this is really important stuff. I've been talking a lot about energy and manifestation and kind of the woo side of things over the last few weeks, which is super important, and keeping our mindset on board is very, very important. But the other flip side of the coin is knowing your numbers. Now, I even recently had a conversation with a very good TLC member, absolute legend of a person, and they still hadn't put into place an inquiry log. This is just another kind of thing that needs to be done in your business. How can you know where your inquiries are coming from? How can you reflect on how you are doing from a sales perspective or from a marketing perspective if you're not logging things? And the same goes for the figures in your business. Are you just doing the stuff every day, just running your business as you do? Or are you actually looking at the numbers? Because sometimes we can think, and I've brought this up in many a podcast, I know, and probably on many a live, that we can sometimes believe that something is happening. But when you actually go back to figures, to spreadsheets, to logs, you'll find out it's a very different scenario. And unfortunately, in my father's business, as this is going to be sort of the case study for today, the fact is that nobody's been keeping an eye on his figures for many years. Even my dad never looked at his cash flow. He was a very shrewd businessman in the day, but he did everything old school. So, cash was king and so on and so forth. So, he didn't really keep many logs. And it's only since, me looking into it a bit more that I realized that no one in the business even knows what's happening. So they believe that this business is really good because they're getting in lots of moves and we've got a storage which is 60% full, which I don't think is good enough, but they think is fine. And it's interesting to see that the perceptions of us are different on the business. And secondly, that they think it's making money just because we are getting moves in. The thing that is now hurting the business hugely is the fact they didn't know their overheads, and then they didn't add the overheads into their pricing. And this is the main reflection point for me today. One was I had to go through a cash flow forecast to work out the overheads. That then has now led to me working out an overhead cost per day that I then need to put on to the quotes going forward if we decide to continue this business in the way it's currently running. Now, the problem has been that for a few years now, no one has added overheads to that quote. So essentially, when they have gone to look at a property that's going to move, that wants a removal service or a packing service or both, they have only quoted for labor and for fuel and then put on a profit. I have no idea how they've decided what profit they want either, because they definitely do not add a percentage. And that is it. So they have not costed in for boxes. They have not costed in for tape. They have not costed in for any other overheads, such as insurances and, having large trucks, we're talking 7.5-ton trucks that the business runs. We need all that transport managerial stuff as well. So they've not costed any of this in when they are quoting, and they have had acceptance of quotes come in and they think it's all brilliant and we're making loads of money. I quote, one of the lads told me I would be a millionaire if I took on this business. I seriously doubt it, particularly in the way it's being run at this present moment in time. But essentially, it just made me rethink, looking at the way I quote in my landscaping business or the way Mike works out all the figures, I'm not going to pretend I work it all out, is the fact that we put in all the costs. So the material cost, the labor cost, the waste, the preliminaries, everything, that is a cost for that project. We then have to add a percentage of overheads to that job, depending on how long that job is going to take. And then we add on the profit on top of that. And it's really important. Your overheads are your overheads, regardless what they are. Like at the moment, my dad's overheads are hitting the £12,000 a month mark. That needs to be costed into any quotes that come in. Otherwise, what is the actual point in even bothering to sell anything? Because all I'm able to pay is when that quote comes in accepted and then we do the job. I'm going to be able to pay is the lads and the fuel. That's it. And there's no profit because the profit's going to be paying off the overheads that they haven't costed into the job. So this is an important reminder that, are you pricing your jobs correctly? Are you adding in, or, one thing is being mindful of every cost. Have you included every single cost you need to, hire, extra dig out, anything like this? Have you costed this in? Have you got a contingency on there? Can you afford to add a contingency on there? I'm not saying you can, you can't, that's for you to think about. Could you add a contingency on there? Or can you increase your prices to make sure that if something did crop up, that you're covered? Do you make sure you allocate the overhead to the job before you add on your profit? Are you even thinking about your overheads when you are going into your pricing exercise? Or are you just doing what my dad has been doing, or not necessarily my dad, but the people running his business have been doing for the last few years? And that is not including overheads at all, which means they are not making any money and they are just getting the company more and more in debt, which is now where the position is that I'm having to take it on from. It's really, really important. And then the second thing, or the second thing to think about is, how can you reduce those overheads legitimately? Now, I would never just the one thing I'm not going to cancel in my father's business is marketing, unless I decide to cease the business in full. However, I am not going to cancel the marketing, because I know we need sales in order to drive the money into the business, in order to start paying the step back and try and make this business better and more saleable. So I cannot afford to get rid of marketing, and I will not do that at all. There's certain things I cannot get rid of because the business needs them to run, i.e. insurances, etc. However, can I book a review in with the insurance broker to see if we've got the actual cover we need? Bearing in mind, this business has gone through many growth spurts and then reductions. Has anyone chatted to the insurance broker to see whether the policy we have in place is correct for the business as it is? Then also, do we actually need all the assets we've got in the business? We've got a number of vans. Can I sell some of these vans to get some money into the business and get rid of the cost of that asset? Could I, change around the staffing structure? Already, I am looking to, my cousin has been running it. I will take her place, so her wages are saved. And can I maneuver the staffing round to make it more cost effective for the business? Can I, for instance, buy boxes in bulk and store them, rather than at the moment they're paying as they go, which means the cost of those boxes they need to use to do the moves and packs are costing an absolute bomb. So what I'm now saying is, other than just looking at your overheads, your cost of sales, your break-even point, your figures, your income, all of that, you then need to look at how you can legitimately reduce those overheads or review those overheads to see if there's anything you're paying over the odds for. And then it will be looking to increase prices. Now, I know for a fact the prices in my father's business have probably not increased for at least 5 years, I would imagine, if not longer. So what myself and my brother will be doing is implementing a price increase, particularly for those people that are in storage, have been storing their stuff there for a while. We will be implementing price increases all round. And I think you need to also look at that. Can you review your prices? Can you increase them slightly? Everyone's looking for a pay rise. You are going to have to increase prices in order to facilitate that, to keep your key staff on board. Cost of living is going up. We need to be mindful of these things, and we need to price accordingly. So that is it from me today. All I wanted to do was to raise this in your mind. If you didn't see the Friday thoughts that I did on Instagram, this is just a bit more in depth. Again, just to recap, please look at your cash flow. Please run a cash flow forecast so you can make correct decisions. The main reason is, in my father's business, they bought a lorry that they did not need. They didn't have the cash flow to see if they could afford it. They've taken it on. I'm now going to have to look into giving it back or selling it, and hopefully being able to pay off the finance that's due on that. So again, if there was a cash flow forecast running, they could have made a better decision at the time. Again, by doing a cash flow, you can work out your break-even point. You also need to know your overheads, so you can attribute that to days, and then attribute the days to your projects, and then include that in your pricing. So do not forget the overheads. And then finally, can you reduce any overheads in some way? Can you look at reducing different things within your overhead? You might even find that you don't know you're paying for something once you start looking into this. And finally, is, can you start looking at your prices and seeing if you can push them up slightly? There is no right or wrong answer there, by the way. It just depends on how you feel, where you're placed in the market, and whether the market can, take the price increase, whether you are fully booked or whether you're worrying about work again, places. an emphasis on the price and you may be keen to reduce your prices, I would say do not do that. Maintain your prices or increase them if you can. And that is about all on pricing for now. I'm sure there's a lot more I could go into, but I do think it's a very important thing to cover, and essentially knowing your numbers is essential in business, and keeping track of your finances and also your logs, having those logs in place in different elements and areas of your business to ensure you can make better business decisions. And if you want help with any of that, as you well know, I am the landscapers coach. I'm also now a removals person, well, business person apparently. So essentially, if you need any help, please do get in touch. I'm here to help you. I offer one-to-one coaching as well as coaching within the Level Up Your Landscaping Business Mastermind, of which there is still a space left should you want one. If you're a landscaping business looking to take your business to the next level and you want to talk about things like increasing prices, getting better clients, maybe you're looking at knowing your numbers, maybe you just don't know where you're at, you feel a little bit overwhelmed with everything. I get that. I've been doing this for 13 years now, and it does get slightly easier. I think a lot of that has to do with your mindset, and it has a lot to do with where your business is, what you know works, but you need to find out the answers first. You need to know what works for you in your business. You need to know how your business is performing so that we can make the impact needed on that and in there. So I love working with landscaping businesses and, businesses in this industry. So if you would like any help, please do reach out and I can book you in for a free call with me, just 15 minutes of your time, see if we're a good fit and move on from there. So that's it from me. I will be giving you an update over on Instagram at the Landscapers Coach on Friday. I'm heading to my father's to try and sort some of this out on Thursday. So I'll probably give you an update on that on Friday, and it will definitely be something that you can apply to your business. Again, probably some exciting things I've learned as we go. So thank you for listening, guys. And those of you on the YouTube channel, please do press subscribe. And I will see you next week for another episode of the Limitless Landscapers podcast.